Hello and welcome to this webinar with the title Accelerate Modernization. My name is Tobias Fonesch. I'm a technical sales engineer and AWS consultant at Copebit, and I'm joined today by Michael Schmid, a partner solutions architect at AWS. Today, we want to talk about a topic that Michael and I think is very relevant: runtime versions, framework upgrades, library dependencies. Organizations don't chase these updates by choice. They do it because if they don't, they run into vulnerabilities, losing vendor support, or they run into compatibility issues. And for large organizations, this means a lot of engineering capacity is just for catching up. Today, we want to show you how to break this cycle. And together with Michael, we'll run you through the business case of modernization, different funding programs, and we'll have a demo about AWS Transform Custom, one of the tools that AWS is providing you to help you with that topic. This is the agenda. First, Michael will talk about that modernization with AWS and partners business case. Then I'll do a short demo of ATX, and then we'll close with some next steps. And with that said, I'm handing over to Michael. Please take it away.
Let me share the screen. Here you go. Also, thank you for having me today, and thank you for giving the opportunity to present here. Happy to do this with Tobias today and talk about accelerating modernization with AWS together with copebit as our advanced partner. As we start, let's have first the definition what modernization means. So within AWS, we are aligned to a common definition for modernization, what we see from customer observations. So modernization is for us the process of transforming existing application and infrastructure into higher value, into cloud-native services, enabling teams to deliver value more quickly, more frequently, more intentionally, and reliably to customers. So the scope holistically spans modernization of application, but also of data platforms and infrastructure with a sharp focus on business value. The primary reason customer modernizing is maybe surprisingly not for cost, it's for speed and for business agility. To be able to react to customer opportunities and to be able to compete efficiently in the market, to be fast and to adapt fast if requirements change or behavior change. So secondly, moving to modern architecture creates also a more resilient, more performant and secure platforms which are able to scale and scale more than or scale to the actual demand up and down. And lastly, modernization yields highest cost efficiency per unit or per business work in scope. For example, if we go serverless or if you have an event-driven architecture or container infrastructure, maybe with spot instances, we get the most of value for the spend of money. And then efficiency, that includes staff productivity. For example, if we do automation or infrastructure as code or automation in deployments, we achieve more efficient workflows and processes. And then the cost saving, this is only 5% of the value in the cloud following an IDC study. It's obviously more than 5% saving of actual costs, but the 5% here mean the agility, the speed, and the overall business value is the bigger block in the total value we get for modernization than the 5% of the costs. And what I say at the beginning, it's mostly about agility, speed, and innovation. Some more numbers here. According to MIT research, 95% of AI initiatives actually failed to deliver the expected financial returns. And while S&P Global Market Intelligence found that 42% of companies abandoned most AI initiatives in 2025, and that's up from just 17 in 2024. And this decreasing success rate coincides with the organization attempting AI implementation without an adequate infrastructure preparation. So the infrastructure preparation, the modernization, is kind of a prerequisite or pre-requirement to go with to do some AI innovation on top. So it's hard for legacy system to support AI workloads or integrate with AI services. This is in contrast of organizations with modernized infrastructure, which demonstrate a measurably superior outcome here. According to Accenture research, companies with fully modernized AI-led procedures achieved 2.5 higher revenue growth, 2.4 greater productivity, and 3.3 times greater success at scaling generative AI use cases compared to their peers. And that's because modernization, as have seen before, is the foundation for AI innovation. And think of this as a building block. You need a modernized foundation and a flexible infrastructure, the possibility to make use of modern application, mostly based on API, and finally, an AI innovation on top. The challenge behind identifying the right modernization candidates, what is that? It's simple, but it's also not simple. It's create your first application inventory. So it's to find the right application candidates that define the modernization strategy. And here we have some methodology we usually use and which I would like to share here and show you in a step-by-step how we do that or have done it successfully with multiple customers. We start with what you have, so your application inventory. And here is the question first, do you have an updated list of your workloads or of your applications, and when was the last refresh? So is that kind of up to date, or do we need to investigate or start from the beginning? And you may ask yourself here, should I really list all of my application? And our best practice or recommendation is here, start with a 80-20 approach. So if you have the 80% most important application on the list, it's good to go. And top 20, you will probably gain more insights and more details on the run. But it's important to have at least the 80% most important applications. And with that, we are good to identify at least one or two or three to start the modernization journey. Here, just to share some frequent questions which should be answered with an assessment when we do an assessment. So these are questions like, what are we gaining from a modernization? Or what data do we need to identify which application to modernize? Or how do I prioritize within the application portfolio? Just to name a few of the list here. And an updated list is essential. So multiple teams will actually need this. You're not alone in asking for that. So a decision is usually made from multiple involved stakeholders and decision makers, and therefore an application portfolio is the core asset to look onto from different angles. Security need a portfolio view, as well as the compliance team, as well as the finance and controlling team to make a decision on their side, or the business units leaders, as it's often the owner of the application, or it's on their budget and their cost center. And of course, for modernization, you need to know what to prioritize or which application to choose first or to modernize first. And if we have that 80-20 list, we are good for a deeper dive. And once we have a list and defined the first prioritized application to modernize, the next step is to define the strategy. And here we see each of the pathways can be pursued independently, or they can also be used in combination of 2 or 3 of those. So these pathways shown here provide a proven and structured approach for a modernization initiative. And here the question to you would be, have you already explored one of these paths? Do you maybe have experience in one? You have made maybe some success story already internal, and you want to reuse that or rebuild on that because you have the know-how, you know what, how it needs to be done. Or maybe not, maybe you want to prove something new because it's more of value. So that's let's say an approach to define a potential strategy, one of the approach. Another way to look at are the 7 R's. So the modernization patterns provide a strategic framework for a cloud transformation with application modernization specifically aligning with 2 key patterns here. And these are the re-platform and the refactor. And these represent our primary modernization approaches, which we see most there out at our customers. Of course, we prefer customers who modernize when coming to AWS as illustrated in step 1, but not all modernization paths are the same. Some customers prefer to move to AWS first as is, and then reconcile their application portfolio to determine which apps should be modernized. Either way, we can, together with copebit, both accommodate the customer's path and go with both the first or the second strategy or path, whatever you choose. That gives a tick on the box on the manual assessment. So about defining the 2 or the steps with the 7 R's. And as the next step, sorry, I jumped a bit fast, we want to define the decision criteria here first. And for that, we see often that with so many modernization opportunities across different customers, we see that they struggle to know where to get started. And conducting a large-scale portfolio modernization analysis alone can quickly result in people getting bogged down into the weeds. And before you know it, you're in kind of a state of an analysis paralysis. So we have seen that it has been 6 months and you achieved no tangible outcomes and you have no lessons learned and you still don't have a result to show. So, and on the other side, the most successful customers, they quickly identify a no regret workload, how we call it. Identifying a no regret workload is crucial for first demonstrating the link between the modernization and the business outcome. So they prove there is a real case and a real value behind. Then we're getting a quick win towards to show to the board and evangelize the modernization journey within your organization. And as a third thing, building that early modernization muscle within your company while you develop your overall modernization strategy. So now what is a no regret workload? A no regret workload is a workload that is strategically important to the business. For example, a workload that has a staffed engineer team working with the business to build and ship new features and enhancement. So for example, in FSI retail, this may be the mobile banking app, or for airline, this could be the online ticketing book systems, or whatever it is for another vertical. And all of this have in common that the modernization use case needs to prove some value and to get the buy-in to have that journey continues. And how to select an application? We see here 2 pillars or 2 areas of main criteria. We have on the left side the business reasons. This could be the line of business which decides the critical an application is to their business success or significant impact on revenue. A value needs to exceed the costs, and so on. And on the technical side, we have more the old technology, which maybe is out of support if it's an old Java version or old .NET, which is on a non-supported Windows machine. If it's a performance issue, or it's the inability to scale more, it's difficult to integrate. Maybe we have an old middleware layer, which is old, we lack of knowledge, we have a lack of know-how, the person is gone who have developed that, so we need to get a pain reliever there somehow. So these are more the technical decision points. So where to find the first no-regret workload? Firstly, it's about identify the business unit or the team that are typically the innovative or the early adapters and like to experiment with new things. And secondly, it's about to list all of their workload or all of their application, and then to categorize between core, supporting, or generic. And you can use some, like you can take into this decision or into criteria or to sort those applications with enterprise architects or the business units. They have usually a good overview over that, or an application portfolio manager can help as well on this. So what we understand with a core workload. The core workload is a workload that is a key business differentiator for your industry. So this is the secret sauce. It's where your IPs, it's where you invest in R&D as well, and which is the core of actually your business and what you do. And here at AWS, these are our AWS native services that differentiate us from our industry and result in customer choosing AWS the place to be to modernize their workloads. For an FSI company, many of the workloads that support their B2B and B2C channels are likely to be classified as core. Maybe for a healthcare and life science customer, this is more the data platform or the front-end system toward the clinicians. So it depends in which vertical or in which business you are in. Then we have the supporting workload, which is more the workload that doesn't differentiate you. It's not your secret sauce, or at least not anymore. And this may well be modernized opportunities across your supporting workloads, especially in replatforming activities. But it's not an exciting place to start with. So it's not going to be it's going to be very hard to build momentum behind your modernization journey and secure the investment to deliver it if you can't establish that clear link between the technology change and the business outcome. So starting with reporting is probably more from an IT to IT initiative rather than an IT to business initiative. And then we have the generic workload, which is something you need in the same way as your office needs utilities or your car needs fuel or electricity in these days. If you have any custom workload in this space that would benefit from modernization, it's unlikely it will be worth to invest here a lot. So this is more the buy case where you buy rather than build. And common examples here are, for example, email services, expense systems, HR systems, accounting, billing, procurement systems. So those kind of things which you usually just buy or get from a SaaS provider. So then if you have decided the criteria, we can continue with the automated tool assessment. And for that, we at AWS recommend to use a tool-based approach because this is much faster and gives a deeper insight most of the times as we do that manually. And here we work with third party or with ISVs together and we encourage you to use these ISV tools for migration and modernization assessments. Using the right tools, which provide the right insights, will speed up time to result, and this will be more or less to zero costs or to very low cost, as AWS is funding these tools. So if you as a customer plan to do a modernization and want to have a tool-based assessment, we will fund these tools or this license to use that. Sometimes also the professional services behind, some are just tools, others are kind of full service providers who also make some reports, create some slide sets and decision slides and so on. So, and we help you there to get the insights you need, and also they adapt your strategy, which you have defined before. We have seen that in the slide before. The decision criteria they build in that into your assessment and prioritize recording following your strategy. And to give you the full picture, we see two sections here. On the top is our first party tools, so the AWS built tools for many different workloads, like for database migration, .NET migration, we have Migration Hub, and so on. And on the second half below are the tools we have seen before as well from ISV. In the different stages, there are different tools with different strengths, but we're happy to support here with our advice, with our knowledge, and also, as I said, with our funding. This is really crucial, and you can gain a lot of value out of that if you make use of third-party tools at zero costs. So that's what we recommend and how we have really get great success and also great feedback from customers. With that, we have an assessment done, and now with the decision criteria we have and the assessment, the insights into our tool landscape, we can go to the next steps and building the business case. Building a business case is not just about savings in infrastructure. That's of course one part of the story. Infrastructure save, license savings, cheaper maintenance contracts, and so on. That's the first pillar. But it's also a lot about more automation and managed service instead of full stack operation by the own staff. It's a lot about operational resilience, so higher resilience, lower RTO and RPO as you consume managed service, which are spread over multiple AZs, availability zones at AWS. It's about business agility, and also a lot of companies, especially in the enterprise areas, sustainability is a big pillar as well for creating their business case. Now we have all the criteria to decide about the non-regret application, and then it's about to execute, to create the first MVP, to build trust, to show that this is possible, and we can move fast with the modernization. And we see here the best results if customer involve a partner, and this is also what we recommend all the time. So a teamed approach with involving AWS and a qualified partner into your modernization journey. AWS provides here the financial support via the funding programs. We bring here the standardized tooling and can establish connections to assessment, ISVs, and as I've said multiple times, we also found that. So we can reduce the cost there. And we bring modernization specialists who can provide guidance and best practices and experience, because we have done it many times. And I just had the recent workshop with the customer where a customer won't get moved out of an Oracle environment, complex Oracle environment, and together with our specialist and the partner, we could guide him and build confidence how that is possible, how this Oracle specificas can be transformed and can be built on another database derivative, and how we can kind of rebuild everything, what is new, what is needed today to make sure this application will also run out of Oracle. And that's usually hard for a customer to understand or to imagine, but together with the specialists who have done that many times, we can show you a path forward here. And the partner can bring project and delivery management. Most important in my point of view is the upskill of the customer's team. So it's a learning by doing approach. You don't have to learn everything yourself. You don't have to go to the painful experience, maybe make things twice or 3 times because it's not the first time right. And that's actually the quality aspect here. So a partner can ensure it's the first time right and have a high success rate. And of course, the guidance from zero to production on the most direct path. And these days we use GenAI tools heavily to accelerate and support the modernization journey. GenAI helps in infrastructure migrations, for example, from VMware databases, data pools, and many more use cases. They help in application modernization from Windows to Linux, for example, or to open source. Transform.net or MS SQL to Postgre, and on version updates, API updates, and other application, like for example, recently I saw also at another customer, they had an abstraction layer between their database system and all their application, but this abstraction layer probably made sense in the old days, but the person who has developed that is gone, knowledge is not there anymore. It's hard to say how that works. And the AI tools can here help to get more insights very fast. They do the re-engineering, they do the recoding, they bring old code to new code, build old Java to Python, for example, and make it maintainable again, and which was not possible before, or was just a very, very heavy workload to do all the reverse engineering with just a human approach. So we have here the foundational models which understand the enterprise context to adopt, and they can process millions of lines of code or extract some business logic. In the middle, we have the agentic approach, which is a more autonomous approach for task automation or goal-driven execution and reasoning, and which are usually agentic tasks are usually also integrated in the coding agents. And then we have the continuous learning. So the model learns and adapts in the situation it is in within your customer environment. And this is not about train the model, so no data will go back to the model provider. That's not what I'm saying here. And we will ensure that if you use AI within an enterprise content or within your AWS account, we won't give information back to the model providers. So the training here is that the model understands the situation, the context, the priorities, the application landscape, all the input you have maybe give from the assessment, and with that it can give an advice on the gained know-how and guide you on the right path. And here I want to show you with AWS Transform, which is the first agentic AI service purpose-built for large-scale enterprise migration and modernization use cases. It is for migration, for example, VMware or on-prem or mainframe to a more modernized state. It also can make full-stack Windows modernization, including .NET, UI frameworks, MS SQL servers, and so on. And beyond these workflow types, AWS Transform also supports custom transformation from any code pattern, from any APIs, any frameworks, and to a new situation. And that's what we will see later in the demo of Toby. And just to give you some impressive numbers, and these are real numbers, these are production numbers, so not projections. But we see here 1.7 million hours saved. That's why things who were not the business case before, and because we have all this legacy, which just took too much time to transform or was just not possible to re-engineer everything and so on. It is now possible with the use of AI and with the high likelihood we will be able to create a business case now and to tackle these hot potatoes which have been laying around for years. And just to give some numbers of customers who have come back to us with those, and these are also real customer results. And if you ask me, 80% reduction in time of cost is massive, 60 to 70% production gains, 700 plus scripts migrated, and that's really how we can enable now and build business cases which were not possible before. And let me highlight AWS Transform Custom and Transformation, which is, as I said before, the transformation of any code to any within patterns, so we can predefine. We have a Java workload here, and we want to go to Python, or we just can kind of any to any free floating. That's what AWS Transform Custom Transformation does here. How it works: we first define an AWS Transform offer out of the box transformation and define how how we want to tackle the use case, and it also allow you to create a custom transformation. So we can, as I said, take a predefined use case or just a custom one. Then it's about execution. So the transformation can then be executed interactively with the human developer overseeing all the agent works, or also autonomously. Autonomous transformation can be triggered with just a simple one-line CLI command and can be scripted or embedded into any existing pipeline or workflows. Then, of course, it's not just about luck, it's about verifying. After transformation has been executed, user defined validation steps can be performed. We can define test cases as well. And this can be human code reviews, automated validation script, or test deployments, which we bring here. And if transformation code fails the validation, it can be sent back to the agent to fix and flagged for further review. And then we have the learning and improvement. AWS Transform enables transformation improvements through continuous learning and adapt your situation, adapt your type, how you about your code, how you coded that, about the language or the specificas, and adapt that and learns from that and gets better for in each round or each use when you use that again. And with that, I'm at the end of my talk. Thanks a lot for having your attention, and I would like to hand over to Toby for giving you an interesting demo.
Yes, so thank you very, very much, Michael. I think, yeah, we now had a very good introduction into why we modernize and what's the business case behind it, what we modernize, which candidates we may choose first. And now I want to give you a brief introduction into how we modernize. And for that, let me quickly share my screen and rearrange my windows. Okay, perfectly. So as Michael was mentioning, I want to give you an introduction into AWS Transform. We'll first have a look at AWS Transform, or for short ATX. I have prepared a demo application, which is an old Java 8 microservice based on Spring Boot. We'll trigger the tool quickly so you get a feeling for the look and feel. Unfortunately, for the sake of time, we won't be able to run the full transformation, but I already did that and I can show you the results as well, which is what we do in the fourth step. And I also want to highlight certain things that happened during the modernization, because modernizing is not just bumping versions. It's also changing APIs that have been removed, for example, or language features that have disappeared or came to the language. Then I also prepared a custom transformation that I want to show you to really present what ATX is capable of, and how we can also work with custom transformation and extend them with skills and MCP service and so on. And in the end, I will answer the question when to use ATX and when you should better use a general agent such as Kiro or Claude. Okay, so what is AWS Transform? It's an agentic CLI specialized for modernization at scale. So what does that mean? Well, we have basically three modes that we can run ATX on. Interactively, which means we tell it which transformation it should run on our code base. We can run it headlessly, which is very handy for CI/CD pipelines to really modernize whole fleets of repositories. Or if we don't know how we want to modernize our code, we can also run it conversationally, where we really have this conversation workflow where we talk with the agent on what we're going to do. Then what it separates from other agents are, I would describe them as hooks. So in order to make sure that your code has been transformed successfully, we can predefine certain build or validation commands or tools that must pass. We can use that. And what Michael also has mentioned, ATX is continually learning in the background. So if we have the conversation or the interactive transformation, it listens to you and it understands how you want your code to be transformed for future applications. And also important to mention, this is just a memory that's between you and the agent and is not used by AWS to train models or something like that. And also it's extensible, as you know it from Claude Code, as you know it from Kiro. We can use our own custom transformations, but yeah, also we can use skills and MCP servers with the agent. So these are the three modes that we can run. ATX just opens a conversation. We can run it with a specific transformation, or we can run it headlessly. So my demo project. This is an official AWS repository that contains a very simple Spring Boot microservice that's gathering a JSON object from AWS app config, which is a list of movies, and it shows this movie on an HTML page. For those who don't know, AWS app config is the service that lets you centralize configurations, and this means that you don't have to juggle different end files. You just have different AWS app config files in the cloud, and your application, if you use the AWS SDK, then gathers this information from app config. So you have them centralized. It's deliberately legacy, which means it's based on Java 1.8. We are using Spring Boot 2.14, I believe. We are currently at Spring Boot 4 point something. We use JUnit 4 and Mockito 1.x. We are still using the old JavaX namespaces instead of the Jakarta ones. If you're interested, at some point, the Eclipse Foundation had to rename certain namespaces to Jakarta because of a feud with Oracle. And we are using an old log4j version. So all these things we would like to modernize. It's a perfect before picture. And it's one of these applications that many enterprises have laying around in their hundreds or thousands. So let's run the tool. Let me first show you the custom definition library. So if I type in custom dev list, we see that ATX is calling a registry. Now, in this registry, there are all the transformations that are available to us. Most of them are already provided by AWS, and they cover a wide variety of different transformation tasks, such as upgrading the AWS SDK from version 1 to 2, upgrading Node.js versions, upgrading Vue versions, Angular versions, transforming your code base from Oracle Java to Corretto, all different kinds of things. Also Spring Boot version upgrades, etc., etc. These custom transformations are in the background, nothing else than markdown files, but I will get into that a little later. Down here, we can also see our custom user transformations. So we can upload our own transformations, and we can call them then in a CI/CD pipeline, for example, or we can share them in a team. And I will also deep dive into this transformation later in my presentation. So let's start ATX. If I start the agent, the ATX command, we are welcomed with an interface that we might know from Kiro or Claude Code. And here we can ask it something. Let me quickly show you my file explorer. So in here in the source folder, I have the already modernized application, but I re-downloaded the old code and put it also in the folder here. I will quickly copy the path here. And why did I do that? As you might have spotted, ATX works in a way that after every step, it creates a commit. So first it creates a new branch, and then it commits all the different stages. And since my presentation is also in this folder, it became a bit cumbersome to jump back and forth between commits. That's why I have the code now twice in this repository. But let's talk to ATX and ask it something like, please modernize my Java project from version 1.8 to, I think 25 is an LTS version, and it's in this path. So this is just one small little detail. ATX likes it when you tell it the full path where your code lies, instead of just a relative reference. But what you see now is that ATX is trying to understand the assignment. It also gives us the commands if something fails, how we can continue in the conversation, or how we can debug the transformation progress if something fails. And it understood, okay, we have to transform something. So it goes to this registry and downloads all the different transformations and tries to figure out which transformation suits our case best. And here we find there's already an AWS managed transformation that does exactly this. AWS Java version upgrade, number 6. It upgrades Java applications from any source JDK version to any target JDK version, Jakarta EE migration, database drivers, OEM frameworks, Spring ecosystem updates. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. And this is also exactly what I've executed in my demo. So let me quickly go into my Git diff here. So here I'm comparing the Git diffs from before, when it was still Java 1.8 to now that it's Java 25. And we can see here, of course, all the version bumps and the packages that it has changed. Now, I know this is not necessarily magic, but especially languages like Java are designed to be backwards compatible and very, very future-proof. So most of the shift here is to bump versions. But if we go further down, can also see, so this is the pom.xml. Before we had the Gradle files, now we have the Maven files. We can also see that it's adopting the namespaces, for example, here. So from the old Java X to Jakarta, and it changes the reference in your code here. And to this example, I'm getting in a minute. So we see we have upgraded the application from Java 1.8 to 25. We upgraded the Spring Boot version from 2.0 to 4.1. We upgraded the AWS SDK and so forth. I now prepared two Docker files, and I confirmed that it works. But I also understood that the demo effect is a bit boring because we have twice the same application. So just to run the 1.8 code in a 1.8 container and then the 25 code in a 25 code container, but it still looks exactly the same. It's not very impressive. So please apologize if we also skip that part of the demo. But yeah, we run the transformation and it works. So we are now running on much newer technology, which is exactly what we want. But we're not just bumping versions, right? Sometimes also language features disappear or new language features get added to the language. So it would be nice to leverage these as well. So one example here is that with Java X, we had this very short expression to get this certificate, where the transformation also have found an in-place replacement for that language feature that does not exist on our new stack. So it's not just bumping versions, it's really modernizing and rewriting certain parts where necessary. But we can also build our own transformations. I did that. I called it the observability and resilience uplift. And this goes far beyond just version bumps. In this case, I thought to myself, wouldn't it be nice to, in the same step as we are upgrading, also transforming the code to be more cloud native? This means having structured logging and tracing, implementing open telemetry, including actuator, liveness and readiness probes for Kubernetes and ECS, using resilience for J, or using an externalized hard-coded config. I created this custom transformation using Kiro, and as you could see before in the list of transformations that were available to ATX, we can then name them and publish them with ATX custom definition publish, and then we reference where our transformation is, and we can call them simply by then calling the name, and we can also use special verification commands. In this case, we want to verify that this transformation was successful by running Maven clean, which removes all the old artifacts, and verify, which runs the verification step. So what's the anatomy of such a transformation or a custom transformation? Well, it's just markdown files. We have one main markdown files and then document references. So plain markdown. The agent follows, if you have certain steps in your transformation that you regard as critical or important, the agent will read them and will follow these instructions. We can also define build and validation commands. So where we tell the agent, you're not done until these tests or these build or validation commands actually pass. And we can also give documentation references. So let me give you a quick insight into my custom transformation. We see here the markdown file. This is the main description. We here have cloud native, the title, and the objective. And here my tip to you is, if you want to write a custom transformation, you can either generate them from ATX, or you can also use your favorite console agent, such as Kiro or Cloud Code. Just go to the documentation page, copy it, or even better, hook up your AWS knowledge base MCP server, and the agent will figure out the structure of this document for you. So here we have different things that I would like to have. I explain how I want to have trace included. I want to have these health probes included. I want to have the config outsourced, etc., with examples. And here, if we take Open Telemetry Springs reference, we also explain to it how we give it simply more context. So when you are at the point that you're including this Open Telemetry library, this is how you do it with examples. So for example, this is a span, and then please annotate all the functions with this. And what we can also do is in the root folder where the agent runs, we can have an agent skills folder where we can also put our skills in. In this case, I wrote a short skill that is explaining to ATX how to use Finch. Finch is a containerization solution by AWS, which is a bit proprietary, thus it doesn't know it by default. That's why I wrote a skill for it, and now with the skill, it works perfectly because it can look up how Finch works in the skill. Okay, let's go back to my slides. So exactly 3 extension points, 1 workflow. We have the custom transformations where we define what our transformation should look like. We can give it skills. For example, if you use proprietary tools like Finch instead of Docker, and we can also hook up MCP servers in an mcp.json in the config folder of ATX. For example, if we want to leverage the AWS Knowledge MCP server, or there's a very good MCP server for OpenTofu that has access to the OpenTofu documentation, things like that. So when should we use specialized agents and when general agents? So the benefit of ATX is it's purpose-built, and it's purpose-built for modernization at scale. You do it once correctly and in detail, and then you can store your learnings, and the agent also learns with you, and then you can run it 100 times. You have special build and validation hooks that you maybe first have to train your agent to use or to build a similar functionality. It's continually learning. You have versionable and versioned transformation files that you can share within your organization. You can run it headlessly in different CI/CD environments. And this is one big difference to other agents. You are not paying for tokens, but you are paying for agent minutes. So this means that your first transformation might be a bit more expensive than using a general agent, but especially on scale, this becomes much cheaper because you're just paying for the amount of time that the agent is running, and not for the data that you're actually feeding to it. And AWS Transform doesn't just use one model or one model provider, but I think AWS has makes the model choice for you, first of all. And I also think they have especially trained models, but not 100% sure about that. Certainly, AWS uses the best suited models for the job for you, so you don't have to care about that. But then also, of course, general agents such as Kiro or Claude Code, they are great. They are interactive. Do your day-to-day engineering tasks with them. They are much better if you work exploratively to design things, to vibe code. They're much more flexible across different languages and different tasks. They are rich in local tooling. and just in a human in the loop workflow, they are a bit more user friendly, where ATX is really shining once you're scaling. But better together. As I also mentioned, I used Kiro to create my transformation. You can give it, set the link to the documentation, and it will output you a perfectly written, perfectly usable transformation. Use ATX to scale across hundreds of repository. You can also use an ATX transformation, run your tests, and then maybe go back and ask Hero or Cloud Code for even more improvements that ATX didn't found in the first run, and then add it to your custom transformation. So use generalists to author and the specialists to scale. And with that, I thank you very much. And yeah, here I do have some references. And now let me quickly change back my screen so I can hand back to Michael for the next steps. There you go.
Thank you, Toby. Yeah, for the next step. So I think you have learned a lot today about how to modernize or how we can tackle that. And next step would be schedule a discovery call with your partner. Identify your core or no regret application and make use then of the AWS funding for modernization, for MVP, for POC. So we have a lot of, for the ISV tools I've mentioned. So we have a lot for the assessment. There are a lot of fundings out there which you can use and make use of to lower your cost in a modernization initiative. And then, of course, use the partner's best practice to build your internal modernization muscle, but also to show a first time right, fast result and value toward your management to get buy-in for the next modernization project, to get faster, gain agility, gain higher resiliency, and be ready for innovation, and potentially also put AI on top of your modernized workload then. So schedule a call. Let's make an assessment together, which is funded at low cost or no cost. And then we're happy to show result together toward your management to get a buy-in to scale modernization approach. And with that, I want to thank you in the name of Toby and me for your attention and looking forward to the next one.
Yes, thank you very much. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.